Hey, good evening, Wing Faith and Faith Nation. Y'all know my wife is silly. I'm sorry. Good evening, Wing Faith and Faith Nation, and welcome to another Transformation Tuesday and to another tag team session. Let me say, I know first of all that we are experiencing some inclement weather. I understand that there are torrential rains falling and tempestuous winds blowing, but there is a word in the house. There's a word for your house, and I'm so grateful that you took time. I pray and hope that everyone is somewhat safe, and I pray and hope that everyone is somewhat sheltered. Rain is a part of life, and I found out a long time ago that you show in the sunshine, but you grow in the rain. So there's some growth going on, physically and spiritually. How you doing today?
I am wonderful.
So many people asked me about you on Sunday.
No.
I was present and you was absent. Lord have mercy. They wanted to know where was first, if you was, across the country, out of the country, another nation, another planet preaching. She was pressing her way through. She had an extremely busy weekend, but we're glad to have you here sharing with us tonight.
I'm honored to be here.
Excellent. I want to thank everybody that was there on Sunday. What a magnanimous, what a Pentecostal great time we had. What a wonderful move of God. And I give him all the glory as he keeps elevating our story. And so we thank him for all of you all that have reached me from all over the country that was encouraged, empowered, enhanced, educated, and equipped by the word of God that came from God himself. And I'm just an humble servant, and I'm grateful that God thought enough of me in my lifetime to use me as a conduit by which heaven's water can flow. I'm so grateful to God for that, and to all the people that was blessed on Sunday. We're going to pick up tonight. We're going to stay in the book of Ruth, I'm sorry. I'm still tired from Sunday. All right, so we're going to stay in the book of, what's her name? Ruth, which is one of only 2 books in the entire Bible that's named after a great woman of God. We were in chapter 1. Tonight we're going to be in chapter 2. We're going to keep our eye on the clock. We might even get to chapter 3, part of that. We'll see where we go. I think it'd be good if we could get to maybe at least the first part of chapter 3, because it'll help give a bookend to the narrative that starts tonight. So I'm going to encourage you all to tag, to share, to call, to text, to read somebody. And we'll go ahead and get started, and preferably, hopefully, expectedly, we pray that we're going to be a blessing to you all on this evening. Amen. I'll turn it over to this beautiful woman here that is truly anointed and has a greater delivery speech than I. It's on you, sweetheart.
You are so kind.
Oh.
Hello, Faith Nation and Wings of Faith. I'm so elated to be with you all tonight. As Pastor has already said, we know that God has given us a dynamic word, and we are just elated to share that word with you. If you have your Bibles, your iPad, your iPhones, your Androids, please make sure you go ahead, and we're going to go to Ruth chapter 2. And do us a favor, go ahead and share and tag. Make sure you have invited someone to tune in to what the Spirit of the Lord is getting ready to say. All right, we're going to go from Ruth chapter 2. As normal, I will do the reading. I'll be the moderator, and Bishop will give our revelation, and then we'll kind of tag as God permits. All right, and here we go, chapter 2, verse 1. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said unto Naomi, Let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, Go, my daughter. Verse 3 says, And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was the kindred of Elimelech. Bishop, I know we're into, but can you give us a backdrop on chapter 1 so they'll actually know with where we're going?
And you're under the assumption that I know?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. She put me out here, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, listen. In Ruth chapter 1, we were introduced to 4 names. We were introduced to Elimelech. We were introduced to Naomi. We were introduced to Elimelech, Naomi, Mahlon, and Chilion. As the story progressed, we were introduced to Ruth and to Oprah. Basically, what happened was the first 4, Elimelech was married to Naomi, had 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion. They lived in a place called Bethlehem, Judah. Bethlehem means house of bread. Anytime you see Beth means house. So anything after that, you just add on, that changed the meaning. So they was in Bethlehem, house of bread, Bethlehem, Judah, house of bread, or place of plenty and praise, because Judah always means praise. So here they were, in the place where they're known for giving God praise, in Bethlehem, and there was a famine. So when the famine came, there was no rain, there was no harvest, there was no crop, animals were dying. It's total devastation in the place that's known for plenty, in the place where people praise. So you have people in the places known for plenty that's not experiencing a shortage, that have found no reason to give God praise. And there was a man that was extremely popular and had an extremely popular family by the name of Elimelech. Elimelech means my God is my king, or Jehovah is my king. Elimelech turns to Naomi, and turns to Naomi, whose name means always pleasant, and tells always pleasant to go and get Mahlon and Chilion, whose names means sickly and puny, and says we're on our way out of here because there's no reason to praise because we are now without plenty. Out of all the surrounding cities, villages, places they could go, they ended up going to a place called Moab. Moab in the Bible is symbolic, and it means wash bowl or wash pan or wash basin. Because in those days, a wash basin was simply the basin that was normally carried around by the slaves to wash the servants' feet, and it was always, it was known as a toxic vessel. It was a pan that was filled with toxicities as they washed the debris, the trash, the grit, the mud, the dirt, the sweat off of people's feet. Because in those days they walked around in open-toe shoes, much like yours, and so the soil and the dirt and everything, after 8 hours, 10 hours of walking in 90 to 100 degree heat surplus, that their feet would be caked, and so then they would put them in the basin and wash them. But at the end of the day, they would take the water and throw it out much like dishwater. God said on one occasion that many of them was like Moab. It was like the basin of dishwater that's good for nothing but to be tossed out. Out of all the places that Elimelech could have taken his family, he took them to Moab. He took them to a cursed ground, a place where the Moabites who practiced carnal worship. And he decided to take his family, which creates a problem, but this is just a review, so I don't really want to get into Revelation, stuff like that. But here you have Elimelech, who God is his king, who's known for his faith, who decides not to be faithful.
Wow.
And you got a lot of people that got great faith, but yet in certain situations, discontinue being faithful. Yeah. Now, people want to blame Naomi, but you really can't blame Naomi because Naomi was submitted to her covering. And she was being submitted to her covenant. And so what happened was he takes them there to Moab, and in his mind, he's thinking, "Bang, we're just going to go here, wait till the famine stops, and we'll go back." But biblical commentary says they ended up staying there 10 years. But not only did they stay there 10 years, but something even more horrible and horrific happened. Elimelech died. He died, and he leaves Naomi, Mahlon, and Chilion in Moab. But they're too broke to get back to Bethlehem at this time. So now you got a tombstone in Moab, but inside the grave is a child of God who is known for my God and my King. So my God and my King is now in cursed ground because the place of plenty had a shortage, and so now he dies in the wash bowl that's fit to be thrown out. Wow. And the first thing that happens is so now you got Naomi who's broke and brokenhearted with a broken covenant, having broke her faith. They're left with 2 sons to raise who's broken too because father's gone. Wow. And the next thing that happens is Mahlon and Chilion meet 2 Moabite women and fall in love. Mahlon marries one named Ruth. Chilion marries a girl named Oprah. Oprah who is stubborn, and Ruth who is loyal. Friendship. They stay there for about 10 years, and then Mahlon dies, and then Chilion dies. So now you got 3 tombstones, 3 graves in Moab that are there because they was following my God is my King, who had great faith, who decided not to be faithful. And he leaves behind his wife, Naomi, who was always pleasant, who's now become bitter and decided to change her name to Mara. And now she's left with 2 daughters, one who's known for being stubborn and one who's known for being loyal. And she has this eureka moment because word gets all the way from Bethlehem, Judah to Moab, which is 50 miles, that God has visited, the Bible says, his people, which wakes up something in Naomi because she's part of the his people conversation. So she decides, me being part of his people, being his child, I'm going to get up and go back to God, watch this, even though I'm mad with God. You know what I'm saying? I'm frustrated with God, but I'm not going to allow my frustration to stop me from being faithful. So I'm going to go back. She tells Ruth and Naomi, I'm going back to God. He's visited his people, which means the place where there's a famine that was a place of shortage is now a place of overflow and returned back to being a place of plenty. And a place that had become silent whereby there was no shout is now a place of praise. So she's trying to get back there because she ain't praised in 10 years.
Wow.
And on their way back, she looks back and realizes that Oprah and Ruth are walking with her. As you all know from the last chapter, she turns around, tells them to go back. They say, no, we're going with you. They walk a little further. She gets right to the outer border, right to where she's getting ready to exit out of Moab. She turns back one more time and says, no, I want y'all to stay. Go back and be with your mothers. And then she gets into a deep, profound conversation. She begins to say stuff like, I have nothing else to give. I have no more sons that could come out of my womb. And me being a woman of old age, even if I was to find a man, get married, and have relations, as grandmama would say, would you wait on them? In other words, would you wait for me to find a man, have relations, conceive, birth a child, and wait for him to turn 18 or 16 in those days, 17, for you to marry? Are you willing to wait 16 to 20 years? She said, I have nothing else to give. Why not go back to your mother's house? Go back and be to your family what you've been to me. Because evidently, based on biblical commentary, they had done well by her. And the Bible says that Naomi kissed her and went back. But Ruth decided to go with her. They walked a little further. She said, look, babe, you need to go back. Ruth goes on to say, listen, your God will be my God, your people will be my people, your worship going to be my worship. Where you die, I'm going to die. Your friends will be my friends. I'm not leaving you because you've been too good to me. I'm sticking with my mother-in-law. She chooses not only her loyalty, her friendship, but she chooses her faith because she chooses her God.
That's good.
Because for 10 years almost, this Moabite woman who grew up under a Moabite worship that had nothing to do with God. In the Moabite worship, they even had human sacrifice. In this Moabite worship, they worship Baal. They worship Ashtoreth. In this Moabite worship, it was sexual promiscuity based on demonic doctrine. And she dismissed all of that, rejected all of that, and said, I want your God. I want your worship. I want your prayer. I want your praise. I want your testimony. And she goes back with Naomi. Chapter 2 opens as they walk into Bethlehem, Judah. Naomi's telling them, everybody telling them, oh, they go Ruth. They go Naomi. They go Naomi. They go Naomi. And Naomi turns and says, call me no longer Naomi, call me, what, Mara. Because Mara, as we found out back in Exodus, means bitter water. That which is bitter. So she says, call me, no longer call me pleasant, call me bitter. So now read verse 1. So then in verse 1, in chapter 2, it says there was what?
And Naomi, a kinsman of her husband, a mighty man of wealth. Verse 2 goes down and says, and Ruth the Moabite said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. Okay, read verse 1 out of your version again. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth. Okay, so I wanted to bring this out real quick, and I'll turn it back. Because that word kinsman is going to do three things in these next three chapters. Okay. It's going to reach back because it is historical. It's going to be powerful where it is because it activates that's what's getting ready to permeate in the present, and it's going to be prophetic because here we are in Ruth, and Ruth begins a prophetic projection
of what Jesus or who Jesus is going to be in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Kinsman, in a minute, is going to be attached to another word. It's going to be kinsman, then it's going to go from kinsman to kinsman redeemer. Yeah. So what the text has been taken to teach us is that Naomi goes back to Bethlehem, Judah, talking about, I walked out full and came back empty. She's coming back saying, I got nothing. The text opens up by reminding her, you got something. Yeah. Because this guy Boaz, who Ruth have yet to meet, who you have forgotten, has been favored by God to be the answer for all your questions and a solution for all your problems. You got family here that you have forgotten you had. So they come back there, she's back, and they tell you who he is. It says he's a mighty man of wealth, which means he's prominent, he's prosperous, he's in great position, and he has great power. All right? And he's related to Elimelech, who has died, which means that Elimelech is in the grave, but his legacy is still alive. You gotta get it with me. So the legacy of who's been buried is getting ready to birth something that'll keep them living. Good God, I felt it in, but let me keep reading. All right, so then it says, so Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, please let me go. So Ruth's number one concern was, I want to be a blessing to Naomi. Yes. All right? But babe, watch this. She says, and glean hands of the grain, and glean hands of grain, in whose sight I may find favor. And she said, go my daughter. So this is what people don't realize. Ruth leaves Naomi for just a moment. She wants to leave her for a day to go and find, watch this. She got to go find, she's looking for two things. Well, really, she's looking for three things, and ministers don't talk about it. She's looking for a field, she's looking for food, she's looking for favor. Matter of fact, you can flip them around. She's looking for favor because she needs a field, because she needs food. Right. You got it? Or you can interchange it. She's looking for favor so she can get food. Hopefully somebody will let her use their field. You can't get it with me. What you're going to find out in a minute, oh God, I feel you. What you're going to find out in a minute is that she's looking for a place, not knowing her favor is going to come in a person. Because God never puts more favor on a land than he does on a man. His greatest favor is always to be on woman and man. It's never going to be just on the land. But she's looking for a place, not knowing that she's getting ready to meet a person. But the person she's going to meet is going to be the person that owns the place, which is going to be the person that introduces her to favor, that's going to further her in the fullness of God, but it's unbeknownst to her. She's walking around with a question, not knowing God got an answer. She's walking around broken, not knowing God have already made her whole. She's right now walking down the street as the poorest lady in town, not knowing that in one chapter she's going to be the richest one. Wow. She woke up this morning broke, but she's going to lay down in one more chapter, and ain't going to never have to worry about paying the bill again. She came to Bethlehem, Judah, a nobody, but she's the only one in Bethlehem, Judah, who's going to go down outside of Naomi. She's the only one in Bethlehem, Judah. She's the only Moabite woman that's going to go down in biblical history as being in Jesus' family tree. If Jesus was to have a family reunion, he couldn't even have it without Ruth. The Moabite, who spent her whole life talking about, I don't want God, spends eternity sitting up there. She probably there right now leaning on Jesus' shoulder talking, that boy know that story. That boy know about me. Because she goes to heaven. Unbeknownst to her, and I'm going to turn on you, babe, unbeknownst to her, all of these riches has been afforded her. All these riches got her name on it. But she's bankrupt. Just because you bankrupt today, don't mean you can't be rich tomorrow. Just because you broke today, don't mean you can't be whole tomorrow. Just because you're lonely today, don't mean you can't have companionship tomorrow. There's a lot of things that got your name on it that God has yet to release. In a couple of months, we're going to celebrate in the United States and all the world. Breathe, Drake. We're going to celebrate an event called Christmas. On Christmas morning, our kids receive, I'll just put it on kids, our kids receive gifts and giftings. But do you not know that most of our kids will lay down on Christmas night not knowing what's under the tree Christmas morning? Because that's what God does. He shops in secret. He knows your list, but he knows his list. And his list for you is always better than at the list you got on your own.
Yeah.
She looking for food, God got faith. She looking for a place, God got a person. She looking for a meal, God got a marriage. Girl, let me stop.
Don't stop.
I gotta stop. Go ahead, because it'll be 10 o'clock. And then once you start, go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, you said a couple of things that I just want to piggyback off of. One of the things that you just hit on was about the genealogy. You talked about the genetics. And I hear, a lot of times we look at our bloodlines. We look at those that we are relationally connected to, our mothers, our fathers, those that we have history with. But, it's funny to know that the God that we serve, He'll not always bless you with who you are genetically connected to. He'll bless you in the DNA of heaven. Right. And sometimes I've known people to always say, I thought it would come from this person, and I thought it would come from that person. Right. But God is so gracious and so kind. He always does something behind the scenes so you can see what He's doing in behind for the public. Right. And it's almost as if we have to understand that whenever we're looking for God to move one way, don't put a limit on Him. Right. We put boundaries and we put a cap on Him. And we put a ceiling on Him. Yeah. And He's saying, we're in a season where if we look at this story, I'm not putting a cap and limiting what I want to do for you, but you just got to open up yourself, make yourself available, and while you're looking for a field, I'm going to give you favor. And in the midst of favor, I'm going to give you not only the marriage, but I'm going to show you the promised land that's been here for you the whole time. You just got to keep walking it out by faith. Even though it was ugly, she kept walking it out by faith. And that's what we have to do. Right. Excellent. Yeah. That's it, man. I ain't gonna about it. Well, what I do love we're in chapter 2, verse 2. One thing we read here in this text, we talked about what Ruth said. She said, let me go to the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace with. It's something about that because guess what? She made this own proposal herself. Yes, Naomi didn't send her. She said, I'm going to go and be a blessing and find a blessing for you. Right. Most people that are prideful, they don't want to humble themselves to be a blessing to somebody else. Right. They don't even want to acknowledge, I need some help, and you can't give it to me. Right. But she was willing and ready to leave to glean. Yeah. She was willing to stoop so that she can get a sacrifice. Right. All because someone that had found favor, and she didn't even realize it. Right. Well, you think about it. She's getting ready to operate now in what is called reciprocal appreciation. Yeah. Because what happened was, the only reason she's leaving Naomi is because she wants to come back and bless Naomi. Bless Naomi, right. Because she realizes the whole while I was in Moab, you was good to me. Yeah. And now your footsteps have gotten slow, but I had not forgotten all the doors you opened before. Yeah. So she leaves to try to find grace, to try to come back and bless her mother-in-law. Babe, she said, I'm going to see if I can find leftovers. Yeah. That was powerful. Because that's what the blenders was looking for. Right. She said, I'm willing to get the leftovers that they drop. That is powerful because I know one scripture talking about, I can just get the crumbs from the master's table. Right. Sometimes it's not even the whole loaf that God is going to use to bless us. It's the crumbs off the table. Right. It's the leftovers. Right. We got to be willing to say, God, whatever you want to do in my life, we sing a song, whatever you're doing in this season, don't do it without me. Right. We got to have that mentality that if it's a crumb, it's going to be more if God blesses me with it. If it's the leftover, He going to bless me in the leftover because while the leftover has the ability to be the harvest that I've been in line for. Well, think about one of the most devastating stories in the Old Testament writing was when God destroyed the world by water. And people never think about this. God destroyed the world by water. when the ark finally rested on my ark, when the ark finally rested, right? Everything around it had been drained, everything around it destroyed. Yeah. Right? So you ask yourself, well, why are we still here? Because God left Noah enough to start over again. What he left, what he left him, what he started with. Yeah. But it was sufficient enough to not only start over, but start a new life, a new wash world, a new culture. You know what I mean? But he had to embrace what was left and get his mind. Man, I almost. Sometimes you got to embrace what's left and stop crying over who left. Come on, Bishop. Because a lot of times we get caught up on who left and the stuff that's left instead of thanking God for what we got left. Yeah. And that's where she was. She's going to get something that's been left. And for what I want to say to those that are watching that may be in the middle of a transition, it's okay to begin again. Some people fight the fact that we have to start over. But it is a blessing in beginning again, because why? Some people look at beginning again and say, I'm stuck or I'm stagnated. No, you're evolving. And God has a way of evolving you from beginning to the finish. We have to be able to be sensitive to what God is doing. So it is okay. So I'm praying for those that are in the middle of a transition. Be blessed tonight that God has anointed you to begin afresh and begin anew.
Yeah, when you think about it, when they began again, they began with something they didn't have the first time.
Yes.
Lessons learned.
Lessons learned.
And sometimes God takes that space, that disconnect, that discontinuation, that dismissal, and that we fight about.
Yeah.
And what happens is we think God has disconnected us when really God is developing us so that the world would never be able to discontinue us again.
Come on here.
You know,
sometimes
you got
we subtract to add.
Yeah. Because he has the strangest mathematical skills that's ever been revealed.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. He gives to you by taking away.
Yeah.
That's crazy, you know. And so that's just how he do. He adds by subtracting. He multiplies by dividing.
Yeah.
That's just what he do. That's why he says, give me 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. You know, you're going to take that away. Now what you going to give me back?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you back enough food to feed 20,000 people. The
God.
bed about so they fed 5,000. No, that was how many men.
Yes.
But they fed about 18 to 22 total. That's just the arithmetic of God.
Yeah.
And God specializes in trading post blessings. He wants you to give him what you got. So he trading post blessings. Yeah, see, the trading post in the day was where it would be equivalent to what we call a pawn shop. You take in one thing and walk out with something else.
Yeah.
God is a trading post God. That's why he says, give me your sorrow, I give you joy. Give me what's broken, I give you hope.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times we want to hold on to what God wants us to trade in. You know what I mean? Because we got emotionally attached to what's in our hand and don't realize that what God got in the back is finna blow that out the water. It can't even compare.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And most of the times we can't get what God has for us until we release.
Yeah.
Whenever God does something, he requires a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And what may look like a sacrifice to somebody else is a willingness to somebody else.
Yeah.
But when God is requiring more, it's because he wants to give you more.
Yeah.
He says, to whom much is given, much is required.
Always.
And that means we have to not limit God. Goes back to the limitation. But when we understand that whatever God does, it's good.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So we're in verse 4. And behold, Boaz came to Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, the Lord be with you. And they answered him, the Lord bless thee.
Okay, so I'm going to do this quick because I'm looking at the clock, so I know we're going to go over.
Okay.
But let me do this real quick, one statement. Think it not strange, or like when they read verse 4, most ministers preach this and they never bring this out. So here it is. When Boaz shows up in the field, he shows up, he's the master, he's the ruler, he's the man with all the prominence, all the power, all the position, all the prosperity. Yeah. He shows up with total power and control. And he shows up and says to those that work for him, the Lord be with you.
Yes.
And then they say to him, the Lord bless you. It shows you something different than most people with this type of power are not this cordial, not this kind.
Yeah.
Most people, when they get power, they lose their mind. That's why in church, the most dangerous thing we ever did in church was we gave people titles. Because when we gave people titles, people start acting off of the power of their title and stop wanting to be a servant and serving. But he shows up and says, the Lord be with you. He's prophetically pronouncing blessings on them. And then they look back and says, and the Lord bless you. Which shows you the relationship they had. The relationship between Boaz and his people, which speaks of his character in the Bible without even knowing him yet. Okay.
One thing that I saw here in this text when he was talking to, when he made the comment in the reapers, I saw how favorable it is and how important it is that we understand who we are in God. I say that because he was a man in authority but under authority.
Right.
He was a man in authority because of who he was.
Right.
But then he was under authority because he was a God-fearing man.
Right.
And so that made him not only be a blessing to God, to bless God, but also be a blessing to him. Yeah. And I love it because it shows such humility.
Yeah.
And there are so many
We don't see that
leaders,
a lot.
so many people that have titles, especially in the church. We hear people all the time says they experience church hurt. And it's because there are so many people that have gotten the big head because they got a title.
Right.
But we need to understand the title is not what makes you. We have to understand it's the God that's in us.
Yeah.
And if we miss that, we're going to be rulers over people versus loving them. And then they had a heart of servanthood, which says if he had not been who he was, they weren't able to love him as a servant.
Well, you know, I say this in 10 seconds, like I said, I keep moving. We live in a culture whereby titles make us.
Yeah.
When originally we were supposed to make the title.
Yeah.
It wasn't that we are this because I'm the president of chairman. No, is that my ability and my ability to fulfill the office is what makes me powerful, not just the office that I have to fulfill. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna move on because I know we on a quick time.
No, we're good. What?
All right, and so verse 5. You want to go to 5?
Okay, so verse 5. Yeah.
Okay. Verse 5 says, "Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers, Whose dansmill is this? And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, It is the Moabish dansmill, that she came back from Naomi out of the country of Moab. And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather from the reapers among the sheaves. So she came and hath continued even from the morning unto now, that she tarried a little in the house."
I need to read the words.
Okay. Verse 8. "Then she said, Boaz unto Ruth, Hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens." Verse 9. "Let thine eyes be on the field, that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee? And when thou art touched, go unto the vessels, and drink of that which the young men have drunk."
Okay, so basically what happened is Ruth is out in the field. Unbeknownst to her that the field is owned by Boaz. Boaz pulls up on Ruth not knowing that Ruth is in the field, and Ruth not knowing who Boaz is. And Boaz spots Ruth. Really, a biblical perspective says that he saw her before she saw him. I'll leave it alone because it's so much relational negatives in this. But and so he sees her and then he inquires of her. And they say, well, this is Ruth the Moabite who came back with Naomi, the widow from Moab. And she wants to have favor. She needs grace right now to be able to stay in his field because she's not, quote unquote, one of his workers. She's not his servant. So you don't just walk up on somebody's field because you don't have the right. So he's intrigued by her, taken by her. And there's a great age difference between and betwixt the two. And he says to her, basically, listen, you can glean in my field. Stay here. Then he tells all the young men that work in the field and the master of the field. In other words, who he's put in charge, the steward of the field. He says, let no one bother her, let no one touch her. Because she's a Moabite, she's a stranger, she's a widow, she's a young woman, she's an estranged man to her on her own. So she could have been mishandled, misled. I don't want to get to whatever, but she could have been abused, she could have been raped, any of those things. So he put the men that was working with her as her security, as guards. Then he told the women to keep an eye on her. So he took the other servants and made them her sisterhood, her protectors. And then he said if she should get hot gleaming in the field, anytime she wants to stop, let her stop. Let her go get a water. So what Boaz has done in one conversation is he's given her peace, he's given her provision, and he's given her protection.
Oh, that's just like a husband.
Can I get with it? And then he also engaged in the connections of what people he wanted around her. See, people don't like this part because this gets into some relationship, whatever. He says to her, whatever you do, don't go to that field. Because I can't protect you from that field. Don't run with the people in that field. Because I can't protect you from that field. But if you stay in this field, you can sleep. You can sleep at night and know the storm won't bother. I got you if you stay in this field. And so that's what happens in that passage right there.
Okay. And that was verse 8.
Okay.
All right. Verse 9 says, Let thine eyes be on the field, that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young men that they should not touch thee? All right, verse 10 goes on and says, then she fell on her face. I love this part.
Overwhelmed.
Yes, and bowed herself to the ground.
Appreciative.
And said unto him, why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldst take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger?
She says, listen, I understand how good you've been.
Yeah.
I understand all that you have said, and I understand all that you're doing. I understand the what. I understand the how. I understand the when. I'm discombobulated on the why. Though I came looking for grace, I don't know why you give me grace.
Yes.
So she humbled herself and said, please, Mr. Boaz, I don't deserve this.
Yeah.
And I don't understand this. And this is overwhelming. I just wanted to pick up a little grain. I didn't know I was going to have free run on the whole field. And she can't even lift her head. She takes on a servant position and she ain't even his servant. Because sometimes God can bless you so good. It brings you to your knees. It bows your head and it blows your mind all at one time. Sometimes God can bless you so good that you got to say something to yourself that a lot of times you don't want to tell other people. I don't deserve it. Yeah. As good as I think I've been, as faithful as I've tried to be, God, I know something that nobody but you know.
That's right.
You know I don't deserve this. You know I don't deserve this. And so I'm having an issue because I kind of desire it. I know I don't deserve it, and I'm discombobulated by it. But I don't want you to think I ain't grateful. I just don't know why you. I just don't know why me. Yeah. That's why I know. Yeah.
I love her humility there.
Yeah.
I love the humility because it says of a grateful heart.
Yeah.
You know, in spite of all that she had gone through, yet she was still in a position to be blessed, but yet she still found herself in a place of worship and thanks. And I love also here because it says God would grace you even when he's silent.
Yeah.
Because she did not even know what she was walking up on.
Yeah.
She didn't know she was going to walk into that field, but it also says how God is a man of his word. He said, I will order the steps of a good man.
Yeah.
He said, those that delight themselves with me, I will guard your path.
Yeah.
And so literally, even when we don't know what God is doing, if we trust him, he'll always lead us to the promise.
Do you know, I'm looking at the clock, but do you know a relational diamond that proliferates out of this passage that deals with the proverbial will of God as it relates to a husband and a wife, that they're not engaged yet, they're not on betrothal yet, unbeknownst to her, she don't even know it's going that way. But in that one act, something happens that most people see but don't see. In her humility became his honor. Yeah. She honors him by being so humble before him, which then triggers something in him to make him want to do more. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know. And I tell people all the time when I do counseling, and there's people walk around that don't know that this is a biblical truth, that a woman is to be loved. You should love her whereby she has no doubt that you love her. But a man of God is to be honored. It is the reverence and the respect. If you love me a little and honor me a lot, we ain't gonna never have no problem. But if you love me a lot and only honor me a little, it's going to create issues on the journey because men of God and godly men want to feel that reverence from that woman. And a woman wants to know by all accounts, that you love me the way Christ loved the church. And that's what you see right there. You see honor and humility coming face to face with one another.
I love that.
Okay.
All right. Verse 12. The Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust.
Okay. So let me go back to 11.
Okay.
Because 11 says, and Boaz answered and said to her, it has been fully reported to me all that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you have left your father, and how you have left your father and your mother in the land of your birth, and have come to the people who you did not know. Mm-hmm. I wanted to read that because this is important. When she says to Boaz, I don't deserve this, Boaz blows her mind with his answer. Mm-hmm. He answers her basically by saying this. He said, oh, you think I don't know who you are? Mm-hmm. I know who you are. Yeah. You're the Moabites from Moab. Now her head dropped low because shame is kicking in. He says, In so many words, paraphrasing. You was Mahlon's wife, Elimelech's daughter-in-law. Yeah, I know who you are. Because you're the one that was good to Naomi. Yeah. Her head begins to come up. You're the one that did well by her, did right by her. You was her strength when she was weak. You're the one that fed her when she couldn't feed herself. You're the one that gave her the strength. You're the one that walked with her 50 miles to make sure she got home safe. Her head comes up. Yeah. You're the one that left your family and made her family. I know who you are. You're the one that's always loyal. You're the symbolization of friendship, and it's on display. I know who you are. I didn't know who you were when I pulled up because I didn't know your name. I didn't know you by your features because you hadn't been seen. But when I didn't know you by your features, I didn't know you by your courage, but I knew you by your character. I know who you are. I got the report on you. And the blessings that I'm bestowing on you are blessings that you sent out over there. They're just coming back over here. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. You never know who God gonna use to be a blessing to you. That's why you got to be careful how you treat people. That's right. Because if she had mistreated Naomi, these blessings would have never hit her life. But she treated her right. She walked with her every step of the way, and she shows up. And then she gets there. While Naomi is at home talking about, I'm bitter. She out in the field building, and now she's better. You know what I mean? And you know, and that's a good combination. It's one, listen, if one of y'all is bitter and the other one is better, you might find something. But if both of y'all are bitter, you're going to end up having a problem. So bitter is at home, Naomi is building, and now she just got better, and bitter don't know that better's coming. Man, I'm telling you, but we'll keep going.
But I like that because when you said it, I heard this, I heard her faith, you got me just so much. I heard her faith followed her faithfulness. Okay. Ooh, and her favor followed her favor. Her favor followed her faithfulness, meaning because she was favored, faith over here, favor followed her. Right, okay, okay, I got it. That was good, yeah. Okay, you're getting too good at this. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so I do want us to hit this one, verse 12. And the Lord recompensed thy work. Repaid her. Repaid her. Mm-hmm. The Lord reached back for all she had done. Yes. And now he's getting ready to give a double for her trouble. Yeah. Because she thinks her sacrifices have gone unknown and unrecognized. Yeah. And Boaz is telling her, God's going to repay you. Yeah. And I think it's a season. For lost wages. Yeah. But that's the season that we're in. We're in the season of recompense. Yeah. I think in Joel it says, I will redeem the time. We're in the place where God is going to restore everything that the locusts, the cankerworm. He says, I am going, when you talk about recompense, it means to repay. It means to pay in full and return. Mm-hmm. And I believe that there are some people that God has found favor prophetically in this season. That he said, you're in the hour of recompense. You're in the hour of payback. I said, get ready for the big payback. Because I just bought this time. There you go. I just bought this time. And that means even in your years and your days when you didn't understand what was going on, he said, I'm going to reward you for your faithfulness. Because so many people stayed faithful while they was being fought. Yeah. They stayed faithful while they was being fought. They stayed engaged to him while they was being injured. Mm-hmm. They stayed true while they was being tested. But they was frustrated because it took God so long. And God sometimes was just building your bank account with him. So that when he finally casts a check in, it's not quote unquote your daily bread. It's gonna be overflow. It's gonna be enough for you to bless this person, for that person to bless that person, that person to bless that person. So it's all coming full circle. So in other words, while you're waiting, he's working. He's working. Right. Just keep waiting. Yes, just keep waiting. Verse 13 says, then she said, let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord. Mm-hmm. For that thou hast comforted me, and for that thou hast spoken friendly unto thine handmaid, though I be not like unto one of thine handmaids. Right. And Boaz said unto her, at meantime, come hither, and eat of the bread, and dip thy morsel in vinegar. Right. And she sat beside the reapers, and he reached her parched corn, and she did eat, and was sufficient of what she had left. It supports what I said earlier in the presentation of the passage in my introduction. I said she was looking for food in the field, not knowing she was going to find favor. Mm-hmm. So now she says to him, give me favor. Mm-hmm. And because, to be honest, what God knew that she didn't know was that this journey had nothing to do with food.
And it had nothing to do with field. It had to do with favor. It had nothing to do with a place. It had to do with a purpose. This right here is even greater than most Bible readers understand. You know why?
Tell me.
Because the whole book of Ruth really ain't about a field. It ain't about food. It connects favor. It's not just about a place, nor is it just about a person. Because once you get to the New Testament, you find out what the book of Ruth is really about. There's a promise and a prophecy.
I love it.
Because by the time you get to the end of Ruth, right, they marry, right?
Yeah.
And then they have a child, right?
Yeah.
And the child's name, Obed, right? And then he has a child.
Yes.
You remember?
Come on.
Jesse. And then Jesse has a child. His name David. But now he just wasn't any David. He was King David.
It was King David.
You see what I'm saying? And then King David had a child. His name's Solomon. And then all of them gonna be at the reunion.
Yeah.
But we'll be there too.
Yeah.
Because they can't crown until we get there.
That's right.
My mom taught me that. Don't worry, baby boy.
Yeah.
They can't crown them
That's
till
right.
you get there. All in the family tree.
Yeah.
But unbeknownst to her, she thought it was about food.
Yeah.
It's about the fulfillment of a prophetic promise that had to come. And Jesus is going to be coming down through the DNA of that up until Mary, to make it a part of his genealogy.
Isn't it amazing that God will give us this scripture to talk about in the 8th month of the year, the month of birthing, and you just summarized this whole chapter. I believe that we can declare, one from the beginning. I believe that we are prophetically in the season that God is going to perfect his promises made to his people. I believe that this is the month, this is the hour, we're in the moment, space, and time that God is prophetically saying, if you stand still and watch me, I'm going to manifest the promise spoken over your life.
Wow.
Because there are people that have gone through the last 7 months of this year and have not seen anything. But in this new month, this 8th month, I believe that God is saying, this is the month that I'm going to release what I said.
Yeah, and there's some people that's going to have the contractions this month, going to have the birth next month.
Next month.
But between now and New Year, there's going to be such an outpour of blessings. But they're going to hit those that have been faithful. It's going to be mind-blowing to those who are witnessing. That's why you can't run. Don't push your enemies too far. Because he prepares you a table in your presence. Yeah, so keep them close enough to know what you're doing. You know, just keep them out your face. But keep them close enough.
Because you got to have a witness.
You got to have a witness. I know what God is doing.
Yes.
Come on.
All right. So we are now in verse 15 for those that are with us. Verse 15 says, and when she was risen up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, let her glean even among the sheaves, and reproach her not.
Protection.
And let her also some of the handfuls of purpose for her, and leave them, that she may glean them, and rebuke her not.
Provision. And rebuke her not. Peace.
I like Boaz.
Yeah.
Verse 17 says, so she gleaned in the field until evening, and beat out that she had gleaned. And it was about an ephod of barley.
That's the amount of barley that she had. And I don't even know that there's been some discrepancy with this word based on theologians, because ephod of barley would have been, come on, Holy Ghost on national, Jesus, 120 liters. Could have brought the two a little quicker. I think it would have been like 120 liters. And so the only reason why that's a discrepancy is because they've always argued, theologians have argued, that there's no way she could have gotten all that home. But they may have put effort in there so that the biblical readers would understand that she was an overflow. That it was so much, it leaves an imagination to the mind of the faithful. That she may have gleaned so much that she may have had to have help getting it home.
I love it. I just received all of that from us. I received it. Okay. Verse 18. And she took it up and went into the city And her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, and she brought forth and gave to her that she had reserved after she was sufficed.
Right.
19. And her mother-in-law said unto her, Where hast thou gleaned today? And where wast thou? Blessed be he that did take knowledge of thee. And she showed her mother-in-law with whom she had wrought, and said, The man named with whom I wrought today is Boaz.
Okay, so really important. She gets to Naomi's house. Naomi opens the door. Where have you been all day? Because remember, Ruth went out early that morning.
Right.
When she gets back, it's night. It's night. So Naomi said, where you been all day? And then she looks and she got all this grain and all this barley. She said, my God, how did you get all this? Who gave you this? What happened? In other words, girl, sit down and tell me the story. Y'all know how to get to. Girl, sit down and tell me the story. And she said, Mama, I went into a field, found grapes in a field. Matter of fact, we're going to name the field of favor. I went into the field of favor, Mama, found food. I found food in the field. Mama, you ain't going to believe it. And listen, I done ate already, Mama. I done ate 3 times today. And then guess what? On one of my breaks, I ate with the master. Because remember, on one occasion when Boaz was there, he had to come and sup with him. Yeah. She said, child, who did you? And then she let the name come out. They could see telling Naomi something. She said, Mama, all I know his name is Boaz. And Naomi, listen, y'all. See, the Bible doesn't always record emotional preparation. And so Naomi probably jumped up and said, wait. His name is who? Boaz, Mama. I ain't never even heard that name. I don't know what that means. And I bet time she said it, Naomi had to know. Naomi probably looked at Ruth and said, Boaz? Yeah. You talking about Boaz?
Wow.
You talking about the Boaz? Mama, who is Boaz? Boaz is a kinsman redeemer. He's in your baby girl.
Yeah.
Boaz is related to your father-in-law, which related to your husband. Boaz actually has the power to fix it. You don't know who Boaz is, do you? No, Mama, his name Boaz. What a crazy name. Because his name means, in him is my strength, in him I find strength. Wow. A lot of women got a Bo. Everybody ain't got a Boaz. Now, I could run some stuff on y'all, but it'll be so deep, it'll be trending between 9 and 12. And right now, I got too much favor food on my way to just personally go out here and get something negative. But y'all just flow with me. Some people got a Boaz. Yeah. Some people got a lazy. Some people got a broke. Some people got a cheating. Some people got a lie. Some people, you just fix it right there and keep going. But everybody ain't got a Boaz. Everybody don't have. In him is my strength. Yes. And in him he strengthens me. So that's what she said to Naomi. A eureka moment happens. A light comes on. Naomi gets an awakening. And now, who's been campaigning that she's bitter is pleasant again.
Isn't that amazing?
Only God. In the sovereignty of God, Naomi is full. She says, baby, out of hundreds of fields in Bethlehem, Judah, you somehow never end up in his field? Did you tell him who you was? Yeah, Mama. He know about me? Yeah, Mama. So he doubled your blessings? Yeah, so you could be blessed, Mama. Mama, so now she's getting ready to say, tell me about the man, Mama. Yeah. Tell me. Because see, sometimes conversations switch. Sometimes you the pilot, I'm the co-pilot. Then there's sometimes I be like, hold on, give me the wheel. I got this. So in a minute, Ruth right now is driving. But in a minute, Mama gonna say, give me that wheel. Yeah. Sit down, baby girl. Let me tell you what God done like this for us. Because he can't redeem you and not redeem me. That's right. Can I get a witness? I love it. I do too, I'm telling you. Okay, I know I'm saying, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
So can we just release that God is getting ready to divinely connect you to your blessing?
Yeah, that'll work. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I declare
decree and declare. Yeah.
That God is in this hour prophetically, divinely connecting you to your promise, where your strength is going to come from. Because Boaz means what?
In him is my strength.
All right.
And strength right there means power.
Yes.
In him is my vigor. In him is my help. In him is my fullness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay.
All right. So now we are in verse.
I don't know. I got caught up.
I
know we in Ruth though.
All right. So we're in verse 20. And Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, Blessed be he of the Lord, who have not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead. Okay,
one thing, right?
Yes.
When he said, Blessed is the Lord who has not left off his kindness, because you know what that really means? It means, blessed be the Lord who have not forsaken us. Those that are living, she's talking about her, talking about Ruth, all those that are dead. She's talking about Elimelech, Mahlon, and children. She's saying, God, you're still honoring who was here. Wow. And you're honoring who's still here. Wow. Because who was here and who's still here had a covenant. And though faithful, though the man of faith didn't prove to be faithful in one season, you didn't discredit his other season. Because he didn't spend his life in Moab, Elimelech. He spent his last season in Moab. And God is such a good God that he favors above our fractions. And he sent miracles sometimes to override our messes because he looks at our whole heart. I don't mean to get off, but I just want to go in this subdivision. Go in this cul-de-sac. Just turn around. That's what most people do. They just go in cul-de-sacs and turn around. So we're just going to go in this cul-de-sac. We can't stay, y'all, because I ain't got no time. We're just going to turn around real quick, right? Oh, God, I'm going to get caught up.
Go ahead. This tag team Tuesday.
I mean, but... Okay, now, you go. I'll come with you. Go ahead and read the next one. Yeah, go ahead and read the next one.
Okay. All right.
I got you. Go ahead and read this.
All right. And so verse 21 says, And Ruth and the Moabites said, He said unto me also, Thou shalt keep fast by my young men until they have ended all my harvest.
Wow. 22
and 23 is the last two verses. And it reads, And Naomi said unto Ruth, her daughter-in-law, It is good, my daughter, that thou go out with his maidens, that they meet thee not in any other field. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of barley harvest and of the wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law there.
Because she was concerned about the harm that could have proliferated against Ruth if she decided to switch fields or stop along the way. So she told her, listen, in this season, you cannot detour from your detail.
Bishop.
Let me say it again. You cannot detour from your detail. Because that distraction could be what the enemy is using.
For destruction.
For your destruction. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of people end up in states of destruction, and they end up with their destiny being dismissed because they paid too much attention to the distractions instead of sticking to the detail. And she's saying to Naomi, she's saying to Ruth, you got to walk from this house to the field by yourself. And you got to walk from the field back to this house by yourself. And it may get hot here in Bethlehem, Judah, on your way all the way back down to the field. Don't let that become a deterrent and cause you to turn and fear. Because that one day in somebody else's field could cause your death, your fatality, your wounds, your hurt. Yeah. Stay with Boaz. Yeah. And stay with the maidens, the sisterhood that he has established. And stay with the men that he trusts. Because in those men and from those sisterhoods, there will be no harm done to you.
You know, that is what the enemy does. You know, the Bible says he's seeking, he's roaming. But what you said was so profound, that this is a season that we can't get derailed.
Right.
You know, when God brings you into the promise or brings you to a place where you are confident, this is a God thing, this is what God is doing. Right. Don't be derailed by the distractions, because then you will be detoured. And whenever you're detoured, you'll miss destiny. This is not a season to miss destiny. This is a season to line up and align yourself with the destiny movements, because it's all aligning you to the promise.
Right. Good. I thought we was gonna really go over. So I think we got enough time to just crack the door, to just get on the front porch of chapter 3.
Okay.
Let's do that. Let's just get on the porch of chapter 3. So it'll make more sense as we, because I don't want to stop right there. That's not a good stopping point.
Okay. All right, chapter 3, verse 1. I'm still in the chapter of Ruth. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that I may be well with thee?
Okay, stop right here. Golly, okay. See, I didn't want to jump. Okay. Because I heard the Lord saying it. When the text, okay, I'm going to preachers' cliches, and I'm trying to stay in teachers though. Well, I'm sorry. Okay, so the text has been tailored to teach us and to invite us to this. What appears to be an indiscretion in the text that most biblical readers, most Bible readers read it and they don't understand. So I don't know what versions you got. You in King James, right? Mm-hmm. I grabbed this off. Okay, mine is New King James. What is yours? Your version. What is your Bible version?
Mine is.
Is it on there?
No, it's on the inside.
Oh, okay.
Mine the King James version as well.
Okay, all right.
But the Open Bible, expanded.
Okay, so that's a different version.
Yes.
So that's what I want to say. But there's a word that he used here that nobody ever talks about, and this is going to be good, Marshall. Because it says, it said, I shall seek rest for you. Is that what yours says?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Read on 3 and 1 again. I'm sorry.
3.
I'm a nerd, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm a nerd. I'm having a nerd moment. Read it.
You want 1 and 2?
I want 1. I'm sorry.
Okay. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee?
Okay, stop right there. Okay, good. Thank you. Here we go. I've been having this scene more. You're going to take care when I get over. Okay, here you go. So here you go, y'all. When the Bible said, shall I not seek rest for thee? I had to sit up for this, I can tell you. When she said, shall I not seek rest for thee, chapter 3 has just shifted. Mm-hmm. Chapter 1 is on the floor, is on the main floor. Chapter 2 is on another floor. Chapter 3 is getting ready to jump up about 10 floors. And then chapter 4, you'll be in the penthouse. What is the main jump of chapter 3? That one word that everybody reads and nobody knows what it means. Rest. When Naomi says, shall I not seek rest for you? She wasn't talking about rest that we know. Rest in the Hebrew language right there means, shall I not seek a husband for you? Shall I not seek marriage for you? Because Naomi is old and she realizes I'm not going to be here to do what? Protect you. And she realized something else. She said, we got favor right now. We balling right now. We got food right now. But the harvest season is getting ready to come to an end. So when the seasons change, that's why I made it a point, baby, to tell people this story is not about a place. Yeah. It's about a person. Because in a minute, the place that had wheat gonna have no wheat because the season gonna change. So Naomi was trying to tell Ruth, the place with barley won't have barley in 4 more weeks. The place with wheat won't have wheat in 6 more weeks. So in 8 weeks, even if we save up everything, in 8 weeks, we will get nothing from the place. But we can still get something from the person. Yeah. We need to move our minds. Please don't get upset when I explain this. We need to elevate our minds from the meal to the marriage. She says to Ruth, I want to talk to you about something bigger than a meal. I think Boaz is who you ought to marry. That's what the word rest means. It means the inactivity of movement, but it also means to be fulfilled, to be restored, to be renewed. It means to be in a place of peace or promise. And that was the Hebrew language. So right now, Naomi is talking to Ruth like a mother talking to a daughter, because in those days, the one thing you didn't want to be was a widow, because widows had no voice. And if you have no voice, you had no value. And without value, you had no victory. She's trying to get Ruth to have a protector. She's trying to get Ruth to have a provider. She's trying to get Ruth to have passion in her life. She says, you're blessed right now, but this season's going to change. So stop. Don't get so excited about the place. Let's focus. Let's change our attention. Let's talk about the man. And chapter 3 is all about the person and not about the place. I promise you. Read verse 2 to 7.
Verse 2. And now is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens thou was? Behold, he barely in the night in the threshing floor.
Okay, so she's telling Ruth, she said, be mindful of one thing. Be mindful that Boaz is more than just the owner of the field. He's more than just the master. He's family to us. And based on our, because remember now, she's a Moabitess. She don't know their Levitical rules. She don't know their custom. She don't know that Boaz, by law, can marry her and wipe out all her debt and buy back the property that they lost in the 10 years they were gone. So she don't know this. But there's something else she don't know. I'm going to mess y'all up. She does not know that based on Levitical law, based on Deuteronomy law, that because Elimelech is dead and Mahlon is dead and Chilion is dead and you got 2 widows with no son, that gives her a legal right. Hold on, lean in. That gives her a legal right to do something that was against cultural law in that day. It gives her the legal right to offer a proposal to him without waiting on him to propose to her. She not going to say, she don't have to say, marry me. She can say, would you consider redeeming me? Yeah. That's why the book of Ruth is a prophetic projection of Jesus. He didn't marry me. He redeemed me. He bought me. He purchased me. In spite of my faults, mistakes, and errors, he thought I was worth saving.
Oh, yes.
You see what I'm saying? And to redeem me, he had to not only favor me and fill me, but he had to forgive my debts. To redeem Ruth and to redeem Naomi, he's going to have to pay the bill for the field that they once owned but can no longer afford. They can't get the property back in their name unless it's redeemed. Somebody got to pay it. And in those days, the Redeemer had to do 2 things. He had to pay the property bill, and he had to marry the widow. The problem that they're going to face is some kinsman redeemer would have said, I want the land, but I don't want the marriage. Yeah. Another redeemer could have said, I want the marriage. Woo, because they say Ruth was soft. He could have said, I want Ruth, but now I ain't going to pay for all this over here. So they had to find a kinsman redeemer that wanted her favor and her fault. Wow. That wanted her blessing and her bill. Wow. And it's hard to find people that wants your miracle and your mess. That says, I love you for your win and your losses. And so, as Naomi's talking to her, she's sharing with her, she's getting ready to tell her in detail, meticulously, who Boaz, not just who he is, but what Boaz can do and what she has the right to do to introduce all of this to him. And so, let's take about 5 more minutes, we'll close.
Okay. Verse number 3. Wash thyself therefore.
Look at mama. This old school mama right here.
And anoint thee, and put thy remnant upon thee.
Sit on this bed, baby girl. So I'm sit right here. Let mama tell you how to do this right here.
And get thee down to the floor.
Mm-hmm. To the threshing floor.
But make not thyself known unto the man, until he shall have done eating and drinking.
Okay, so this is what she tells her. Listen, I want you to come in and wash yourself up. Then I want you to put on perfume. Then I want you to put on this nice dress I picked out for you. So here's what people don't realize. So she's been in the field all day. Okay? But mama want her to go and meet this man. But she don't want her to go and meet her just as a stranger, a maid, or a servant. I want you to go and meet her as Ruth, a prospect for marriage. So I need you, one, to wash yourself. Go and get clean. Two, I want you to go and put on perfume, because in those days, oils and spices oftentimes was worn based on the occasion. That's why the story with the one with the alabaster box was so awesome, because it was worth a year's wages. She was known for having men in and out, or for being in and out with men. But out of all the men she had ever been with, she had never put on spikenard. Spikenard was the most expensive perfume she had. But she had never worn it with a man until she wore it with Jesus. Because she had never met a man before Jesus that was worth that spice being on. Naomi tells Ruth, put on your best perfume. You done met the one now. Yeah. And then she tells her something that people reading the story don't know. She tells her to change clothes and put on a dress. Why is that so important? Because Naomi and Ruth had something in common that nobody else in the area had in common at this time. They both were widows. And in those days, if you was a widow, you had to identify yourself as a widow, which meant that they had to wear mourning clothes, like sackcloth. So think about this. Think about Ruth. I gotta let y'all go. Think about Ruth going to the field every day dressed in black. Ruth going to the field every day with the long cape drape on. She's going in with her head covered. So when people see her, they say, she's in mourning. They recognize her for her pain and for her loss and for her emptiness. Mama said to Ruth, baby, you have mourned long enough. You have been sobering and sobbing long enough. You've been in pain long enough. Because I'm going to say something that's very prolific. I'm going to say something that's profound. Stay with me. And you don't even know what you got in your hand. And I'm going to say this to you on whatever. You have no idea what you got in your hand. No idea. I got hundreds of Bibles in this house. Take that Bible, go back to the very front of the Bible. Before you get to a page, open it up. Turn around to the camera. Can't see it. She don't know. This is the Bible with my mom's picture. It's been there. It's been there a long time. So this is the only Bible in the house I don't use. But God had to tell me one day, because I was taking this Bible to the pulpit, and I was taking this Bible on the plane all over the country. And one day God said to me, because every time I look at the Bible, I would tip. And one day God said to me in my mom's voice, you left the grave and didn't leave. You mourned long enough. I'm with you. Live your life. Live your life. And I took this Bible and I closed it and I put it up. There comes a season when your pain must have an expiration date. Because if you don't stop dying on the inside, you can't help who's living on the outside. So she says her change clothes because you left the grave back in Moab, but you still got the grave on you. Get the grave off you. Because for where you're going, he can't see death. He needs to see life in you, not death in you. And that's what made it so deep. And the reason why she told me to go down to the threshing floor, and we'll be done, we'll pick it up next week, our sister's gonna. She told me to go down to the threshing floor because it was in the middle, it was at the peak of the barley season. He owned the field. So you know what he does because he owned the field? He knows that robbers will steal the grain. So he leaves his house at night, comes down to his field where he has the floor. Now we all know the threshing floor is. Threshing floor is where they thresh wheat, where they crush it, the Bible uses a term called winnowing. Winnowing is when you take grain, you throw it up in the air, the wind blows, and it blows what? It blows the chaff away. That's the difference between a saint and a sinner. A saint get blown away in the winds of life. A sinner get blown away in the wind. The saint, like the grain, always falls to the foundation. That's why the Bible talks about at the end time, God is going to separate what? The wheat from the tare. Because wheat falls down to the foundation, tare blows away. He's down on the threshing floor where you separate the wheat from the tare. That's where he's sleeping at. And when he will hear noise, he's now become his own shepherd. So when he will hear noise, he'll wake up. Who's out there? And anybody trying to steal will run away. She tells Ruth something that Ruth wouldn't know because she ain't from Bethlehem, Judah. She said, baby, I ain't talked to Boaz. I ain't got his cell number. He ain't text me. I don't have his Facebook. But I know one thing. I know where he is at midnight. Where he at midnight? At the threshing floor on the field. And ain't going to be nobody around. Then she tells you something that my mom used to say. Yeah, everybody business ain't nobody business. Because it ain't good business. Everybody ain't no business. She tells her, go to the field, but basically, look, don't let nobody know. Don't let nobody see you going. Don't let nobody see you coming back. Don't put too many people in your business, because everybody ain't praying for you. Everybody ain't happy for what God's getting ready to do. And she tells her, go to the field in private to have this conversation and this encounter. And when we pick back up next week, it's going to blow your mind. Because she tells her to go down to that field. Wait until midnight. We talked about midnight on Sunday. Wait until midnight. Wait until he's full to lay down and have him a couple glasses of wine. Wait till everybody gone. Then she said, go to the bottom of his bed, or where he's laying. She said, and sleep right there at his feet. She said, between midnight and morning, oh, he gonna turn over. He gonna wake up because he think a stranger in the field. He ain't gonna know an angel is at the foot of his bed. And when he lifts his head and says, who goes there? Raise up, baby girl. Smelling all sweet. Tell him it's Ruth. I have something I want to talk to you about. And I need to have this conversation in private so God can do what he's going to do in public. I want to talk to you about being my Redeemer. And that's where we're going to be next week. So we may can close out next week on 3 and 4. So I'll let you close us out. Hey, love you, Faith Nation. Love you, Wing Faith. Whatever, that's great. That's what it is.
Well, we're just going to decree and declare, as Bishop has already closed, that you are in your redeeming hour. And we're praying that God is going to redeem everything that you lost, for some of you things that you gave away. But according to God's prophetic plan and purpose for you, that this is the hour that God is going to make everything make sense. Wow. Listen, if you want to be a blessing to us, I'm sure they're putting all the giving instructions on the screen. Please make sure you go to Givelify. You can go to the website, or you can cash out Bishop, or you can cash out myself. All the information is on there. But please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And before we get out of here, we want to just pray that all things are working together for your good.
And let me pray right before you pray. Let me give them the title again, and I'll let you say some of this. Remember what the subject is. I'm sorry, because we're in a series on the book of Ruth. The subject was, and I didn't say the subject at the beginning, so that's on me, all right? Whenever we mess up, it's always going to be my fault. So that's on me. So here it is. I forgot to tell you that we're talking about, it's all going to make sense after a while. It's all going to make sense after a while. Elimelech died. Mahlon died. Chilion died. Naomi, Ruth, Oprah, stuck in Moab. One stayed, one come with her. One said I was pleasant, now I'm bitter. They go back as widows with nothing. That's chapter 1. But if you stick with us from 1 to 4, I guarantee, as Charles Barkley would say, I guarantee it's all gonna make sense after a while. Amen. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
As Bishop always says,
okay. Oh, be good to God.
And God will
always be good to you.
To you.
Found that to be true. Amen. You wanted to pray them out?
No, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, that was your word of prayer. Oh, son, no. Okay, I fed it down to my son. No. I'm just trying to make you work extra. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me say it again. So be good to God. God will always be good to you. Hey, look, we'd love to see you Sunday, all those that can. We're going to be masked up, but we'd love to see you. So I love you, Wings of Faith, and I love you, Faith Nation. And I pray that God will continue to favor, that God will continue to feature, that God will continue to be faithful. And when the enemy shows up, don't even sweat. Because the same God that will favor you and be faithful to you and feature you is the same God that will fight for you. Stand still. And know this, that he'll fight your battles after a while. He may not come when you want him, but he'll come on time. Be blessed, and until we see him again, praise God. Amen. Good night.
Good night.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah. Shouldn't have been